Being a mom is like 1,000 little jobs wrapped up into one amazing responsibility. I know from watching my own mom and how crazy it is switching back and forth from traumatic nurse to afternoon mathematician, from organizer-in-chief to five-star chef. This Mother's Day, show her how much you appreciate every job she does with a special limited-time offer from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you get ahead of the Mother's Day rush, 1-800-Flowers will give you an exclusive 36 for 36 offer. 36 sorbet roses for just $36. That's only $1 per rose. With an impressive mix of pastel shades in pink, orange, and lavender, these roses are guaranteed to make her smile. Stunning sorbet roses are the perfect way to surprise all of the moms in your life. Wife, aunt, sister, mother. These breathtaking roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 36 sorbet roses for only $36. It's an amazing offer, but hurry because it expires Friday. Just pick your delivery date and 1-800-Flowers will handle the rest. Don't put this off, guys. Order today from 1-800-Flowers.com. It's what mom would want you to do. To order 36 sorbet roses for only $36, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click on the radio icon, and enter code WINGO. That's 1-800-Flowers.com, code WINGO. Hurry, the offer ends Friday.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Carl Tart.
I'm Jackie's Neil.
And I'm Edgar Mopes here.
And we are the host of a new show called Culture Kings on How Stuff Works. We cover a whole range of topics on this show, but one of the things that we talk about the most is sports because we love them. Jacques, what's the sports opinion you have?
The Cubs are the best team of all time.
That's ridiculous. Edgar?
Kevin Durant is the greatest player of all time.
Nonsense. My favorite basketball player is LeBron James. He's the king of the world, and we'll get into that on Culture Kings. Download it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere. Just listen to it, damn it.
This is the best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Getting you up and going on a Monday morning. Welcome in. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I am Trey Wingo. Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. are not here today. So in their place, ladies and gentlemen, we have Marcus Spears from the SEC Network, former number one overall pick, or first-round pick, rather, of the Dallas Cowboys in 2005. One of two, by the way.
That was a long time ago.
Shh, don't tell anybody. Also with us, Mardy Fish. Hello, Marty.
Hello, Trey. Thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome. People are saying, who the hell is Mardy Fish? Well, let me tell you.
Whoa, who said that?
Who the hell Mardy Fish is right now. Marty
I don't think anyone said that.
Marty's my compatriot that works with me on Wimbledon and U.S. Open coverage. He was born on December 9th, 1981, a former American professional tennis player. He was a hard court specialist. He's one of several American tennis players who rose to prominence in the early 2000s. And in April of 2000, Fish overtook compatriot Andy Roddick to become the American number one in the ATP rankings.
Is this just Wikipedia?
Reaching a career-high singles ranking of number 7 in the world in August of 2011. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Mardy Fish.
That's impressive.
There you go.
I was asking the question, who in the hell is Mardy Fish?
And now you know. And now you know. So we are here with you this morning. By the way, I feel like I'm going through, as it's draft week, by the way, which makes me feel very good about things. The draft will take place Thursday in Dallas. We will be down there for Golic and Wingo, and of course I will be hosting the draft all 3 days on ESPN television. But I feel like, Marcus, I'm going through and reliving the 2005 Dallas Cowboys draft class.
Yeah,
because
man.
on Friday, Golic again wasn't here, jerk. And we had
he
Chris,
ever work?
No, he doesn't.
Where are they?
They did the Notre Dame spring game over the weekend.
Okay.
So they're going. I don't know if you heard.
Well, I did LSU spring game. I'm here.
Yeah, but exact. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't know if you heard, but Mike, they both went to Notre Dame. They like to talk about Notre Dame just a bit on this program.
Yeah, I've followed for a while.
Yeah, exactly. So they're down there. You're here, and Chris Canty was here last Friday. Now, Chris Canty works for Humpty and Canty, 98.7 ESPN New York. 98.75 ESPN New York. And so he was part of the 2005 draft class. So for people that don't understand, this is a perfect story as we get into draft week here. The 2005 draft class for the Dallas Cowboys consisted of first-round picks DeMarcus Ware and Marcus Spears.
Yes.
Two very solid defensive linemen. Then in the second round, they took Chris Canty, defensive lineman out of University of Virginia. And then in the 7th round, you guys also took Jay Ratliff out of Purdue, who also went on to be an All-Pro. That had to be one of the greatest defensive line draft classes for one team in the history of the NFL draft.
Well, we were either going to be done quick because Bill Parcells tried to kill us every day in practice, or we were going to have successful careers. That was a great group of guys, man. And we were transitioning to that 3-4, and Bill Parcells had this idea that he wanted big guys up front, fast guys up front, and we all fit the bill. I was just glad they took me 20th, Trey, so I could get mama out the hood. I mean, honestly, I had to get over the fact that I had got some money before I actually got to I need to play well in the pros.
Well, we're glad that all worked out.
I'm glad it worked out, Trey.
We're glad that all worked for you. Marty, it's good to have. By the way, Marty also marshmallow soft. We should say that right now.
Really?
Okay. Where are you? You're from Edina, Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
So you're used to cold weather, but he's out there in his little la LA bubble now.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, Marty, you're coming up. Why don't we play a little golf? It'll be, when you land on Sunday, it'll be like 60 degrees. His response, oh, that's freezing.
I just didn't want to hang out with you for 4 hours.
That's understandable, and I think
four more hours.
I think people could rationalize that. But you're from Minnesota, and he said it was 60 degrees and it was too cold to play golf.
Well, I grew up in Florida.
Yeah,
and then moved to L.A.
Yeah.
So
you're from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Your sports allegiance are the Twins, the Vikings, the Timberwolves.
He's got his Vikings purple on right
That's
now.
LSU purple. We'll get into that discussion a little bit later. But the fact that you thought it was 60 degrees was too cold to play.
Yeah, that's tough.
Actually, I landed. I was 65 and sunny.
There you go.
Pretty nice.
There you go. See, so we should have played golf.
Yeah,
you messed it up. You messed it up.
What'd you shoot?
Not great. But
that's why I didn't play.
There you go. By the way, he's also very annoying along those lines. We'll get into that a little bit later. But let's start as we always do with.
It's time for
Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not,
it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, we start off the top with the Cavaliers doing what they had to do, beating the Pacers 104-100 to even this series at 2 games apiece. LeBron James joined Michael Jordan as the only players in NBA history with 100 career 30-point playoff games. LeBron has yet to face elimination in a first-round series in his career, but you still feel like you have to work so hard for these games, right? It's like everybody has to be all in for this team to go anywhere so far with this playoff run.
Trey, I talked about it. Who's your number 2?
That is
and I talked to a lot of people about it, and they were like Kevin Love. Well, Kevin Love is not a shot creator off the perimeter. Last year, Kyrie was a shot creator. The year they won the championship, he was a shot creator. I don't know. Even if they get past this Pacers series, you have to have another guy emerge. That's why you look at all of these teams in the playoff. That's why everybody was high on Houston when they got Chris Paul. You had him and James Harden who could create from the outside. I don't see any unless players from Cleveland. All right, and who are we talking about? We're talking about Kevin Love. J.R. Smith may get hot, but do you stay hot for the entire playoffs?
I don't know.
I don't think you do. Yeah. Who's gonna be that guy to step up and really Rodney Hood? I mean, you look at the names, and none of these guys other than LeBron James is able to create by himself and really carry that team. Because in the fourth quarter, he had to do it.
You wonder, too, would a healthy Isaiah Thomas help them right now?
Yeah, that thing was just such a mess when he was there. I mean, look, they would take anything they could get. I mean, everyone thinks Kevin Love is their number 2. He had 5 points in the game.
I mean,
he had two fouls in the first minute, basically.
Yeah. They needed so much more from him that they didn't get. Kyle Korver had a couple of big threes late. I mean, he was their second leading scorer with 18 points. But let's be honest, how many games are you going to win when Kyle Korver is your second leading scorer in the postseason?
I mean, Kyle Korver comes off. Look, I got to give him a lot of love for his ability to come off screens and take 2 steps and shoot a 3-pointer. But I hadn't seen Kyle Korver beat anybody off the dribble since I was in high school.
Well, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Let's be clear. That is not why he's there. That is not his forte. That is not his strength. But we'll get more into this game a little bit later.
I love LeBron, too, by the way, so this is very troubling for me.
Well, he did what he had to do yesterday. 32 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists. But somebody else is going to have to step up on a more consistent basis if the Cavs are going anywhere in this postseason.
Off the top.
Can they make another trade?
No, they can't do that. Meanwhile, the top 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference went down on the road and both dropped to 2-2 in their respective series. The Raptors lost to the Wizards despite leading by as many as 14 points, tying their second largest blown lead in a playoff game in franchise history. The Celtics lost to the Bucks and dropped to 4-11 in road playoff games under Brad Stevens. So which one of these 2 teams right now are you more concerned about? What the Raptors aren't doing or what the Celtics aren't doing?
I think for me it's the Celtics because they're young. I mean, when you look at it, Trey, other than Al Horford, none of these guys have a lot of playoff experience. And what do you hear before every playoff? The teams with the experience, the teams that have been here, we know which one of these guys have been in this moment. That's why everybody's confident with these veterans in the playoffs. But with that being said, man, when you get to a point, especially, we were talking about it before the show, Marty, the playoffs they get physical. Refs are more apt to blow their whistle a little bit earlier, especially against superstars. So Boston is struggling because of youth. It's not talent. They play well this season, but you get to this point and the pressure is on, which is what's surprising about Philly.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have tons of guys that can score too, Boston. I mean, the Bucks are good. I mean, they got a lot of talent. I mean, Eric Bledsoe has played really well the last 2 games. I mean, he was bad the first 2 games, you know.
Well, yeah, he was,
Terry Rozier.
I mean, he was so bad.
Terry Rozier.
He was so bad that he was pretending like he didn't know who Terry Rozier was.
He knew exactly who he was.
Eric, you know who Terry Rozier is. You knew who he was, but you just continued to introduce the world to Terry Rozier. But he's come back strong the last 2 games. Golic and Wingo with you. It is Mardy Fish and Marcus Spears with us this morning, and we continue with
Off the Top.
Give it up for the old guys. 40-year-old Manu Ginobili scored 10 of his 16 points in the fourth quarter to help San Antonio beat the Golden State Warriors 103-90 to stave off elimination. Playing in what will likely be his final home game, Ginobili notched playoff win number 132 with Tony Parker as his teammate, the most playoff wins together of any teammates in NBA history. That's kind of cool.
That is cool. I love Manu, too. Manu is I feel like when you're on the court with Manu, you want to beat him up.
Yeah.
I really do. That's the way he plays.
That's a compliment.
That's a compliment. Yeah. He gets in your pocket. He's always doing something to affect the game outside of having the basketball. But, I mean, we went through this process with Manu and talking about if he was going to retire a year or 2 ago, and he's come back in the playoffs. How does the Spurs keep getting to the playoffs, by the way? I look out there and I look at that team, and you know what I say, Wings?
Yeah.
Ugh. But they are good.
Wait, what is that again?
Ugh. But they are good, man. They are good.
Without Kawhi Leonard, basically.
I know. This is the year for you to believe in that system more than any other year. I mean, I like Aldridge, and Aldridge is good, but I throw him in that same category. Somebody has to feed him the ball.
Yeah.
He's not one of those guys that's going to bring it up
coming off the bench, too.
I mean, it's
Patty
impressive.
Mills can make shots. I mean, they got guys that make shots. They play hard. They play good defense.
You know what we saw a little bit with them in that game was a championship culture, because they know they're not winning this series.
Yeah.
They know they're not winning this series, and obviously their coach Popovich wasn't there because he's dealing with the loss of his wife, and he's trying to handle all of that. But this was a team that's like, no, we're not being swept.
Absolutely.
We may go down, but we're not going out that way. And that's what you respect more than anything else.
No doubt.
You see out of San Antonio.
No doubt.
They're like, you know what? We'll go down. We're not going to go down easy.
What you said, culture.
Yeah.
We talk about that. I cover college football.
Right.
We talk about that all the time. The culture.
Yeah.
I mean, how you lose, America matters.
Yes, it does. You're absolutely right.
It really does matter now in sports.
Don't roll over.
Yeah.
By the way, Ginobili was in the zone, brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. He was so in the zone at a 40-year-old. This is exactly what his head coach, Steve Kerr, had to say about Manu after the game. Steve Kerr, the other head coach, sorry.
I know he's old because he was my teammate, and I'm old as dirt. And so if I played with him, he must be old.
He is, and good for you. Good for Steve for recognizing that. And again, good for the Spurs. I mean, what you just said there is exactly right. How you lose sometimes matters. They're not going to win this series. No way chance, but they weren't going to just bow out either. We're running up to the clock. Let's see if we can hit the buzzer so I don't have to hit the...
Off the top.
Okay. Moving on. Penguins beat the Flyers 8-5 to win their first-round series in 6 games. Jake Gunsel scored 4 and became the 3rd player in NHL history to have 4 consecutive goals in a playoff game, joining Tim Kerr in 1985 and Newsy Lalonde. I feel like we made that name up. Brett, is that true? Newsy Lalonde, is that a real person? That sounds like somebody from a Disney movie from the Ice Capades in the early. Hey, get Newsy in here to score some goals. Newsy Lalonde in 1919. Flyers.
Can I be honest real quick?
Yeah.
When I saw that I was going to be on with Mardy Fish,
I
was like, that's his real name?
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, it is.
So speaking of names, I mean, Newsy, Mardy Fish.
Yeah.
That's a pretty dope
It
name.
is my name.
That's a good name, man.
Thank
I
you.
got Marty. That's boring.
It is. Well, so in other words, this is what you were channeling your inner Eric Bledsoe when you heard about Mardy Fish, because this is basically what you said.
I don't even know what that is.
That's exactly what you were doing. Nicely done.
I love you, bro. I love you. Don't let that
I just want to be clear. We need more Newsy Lalonde highlights.
You don't look like the kind of guy who watches a lot of tennis anyway, so don't worry about it.
Actually, no, I'm not. My mother is a huge tennis fan.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, come
like
on.
Crazy.
You're not a huge tennis
I watch
fan?
tennis. I do. I'm not.
Marty, let's get her on the show.
You're validated.
Yeah, get her on.
You're validated. Congratulations.
I'm not running home to catch the tennis match though.
Well, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so congratulations again. The Penguins move on in their quest for a three-peat, trying to do that for the first time since the Islanders won 4 straight in the early 80s.
Off the top.
And we finish up off the top with the Thunder facing the Jazz tonight at 10:30, down 2-1 in this series. Oklahoma City has lost 7 straight road playoff games, tied for the longest road losing streak in franchise history. The Seattle Supersonics lost 7 straight road playoff games from 1980 to 1984. So that's what they're trying to avoid. And let's be clear, Russell Westbrook is trying to avoid giving up another triple-double to Ricky Rubio. And he was adamant that was not going to happen.
I'm going to shut that shit off next game, though. Guarantee that.
Guaranteed it. Guaranteed that. We'll see what happens tonight.
Savage.
You know what I love about Russell? I'm all in for the pettiness and the bitter. I mean, he's all about it. I mean, only I can have triple-doubles. That's basically what he's saying. I'm not giving you yours. You took something that belonged to me.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see how he responds in this game tonight, because that is going to be the most interesting part of that whole
Russell is the hood baller.
Yeah.
Like he's the playground beast. Like you go out, if you go to this gym, Russell's going to be there with his boys.
Correct.
And you might win the game, but you're going to get beat up on your way home.
I think Ricky made more shots in that game than he did in game 4 than he did the entire career with Minnesota.
Yes.
He was good, though. He was good. Did the T-Wolves make a mistake with him and Jeff Teague?
Oh, wow.
That's the question.
That is a question. That is certainly a question, Marty. No, it's a question. So that is where we are in Off the Top. But most importantly, when you look at this, we talked about it a little bit. The Cavaliers did what they had to do, tying the series with Indiana at 2 games apiece. Although it almost looked like an exact replay of Game 3. In Game 3, Cavs were up 17 at the half and somehow found a way to lose it. They were up big at the half in this game as well. Pacers came back, took the lead, and then a huge fourth quarter with basically only LeBron and Kyle Korver scoring all 10 points down the stretch, sealed the win for Cleveland as they retake the home court advantage now, and they have 2 of the final 3 games in this series on their home court. LeBron afterwards, happy how it played out.
3-1 is just it's a huge deficit, and you don't want to ever go down 3-1 versus anybody, no matter if it's first round or all the way up. And if you're fortunate to get to the finals, it's just too difficult. So with them coming in our home building and taking away home court advantage in game 1, we knew in order to get the series back to us having home court, we had to win one on their floor. We had a great opportunity in game 3. But I've always talked about the best teacher in life is experience, and we was able to experience that in game 3 and not just falter like we did in game 3 tonight when they made a run.
Golic and Wingo, by the way, presented by Progressive Insurance. Commercial insurance through Progressive protects your business and your dream. Choose from over 30 coverage options at progressivecommercial.com. I always love it when people say, as we're here with Marcus Spears and Mardy Fish on Golic and Wingo, that experience is the greatest teacher. Yeah, but only if you apply that lesson, right? Everybody says, oh, experience is so great. I know tons of experienced players that lose all the time because it's one thing to get the experience. It's the other thing to take the information from the experience and translate it into something positive. And it seems like that's what they were able to do.
They were. And look, let's be honest, Trey and Marty. LeBron took over.
Yeah.
That's the experience. Yeah. I mean, the third quarter, he had 3 points. In the third quarter, we saw the Pacers make their run. He came out, asserted himself, started driving to the basket. Everything hinges on LeBron driving and kicking or getting the ball in the post and making something happen. There's an issue in Cleveland right now that maybe existed before. This is how great this dude is.
Yeah.
We've looked at Cleveland teams, and no matter what people say about the East is weak and all of that, which I think it's a lot stronger than it has been with a lot of young players. And in a few years, you may see it be the strongest side of the conference. But LeBron has taken let's just talk about the guys on this team. All right.
Well, but I think you just summed it up. The guys.
The guys.
They're guys. They're just guys.
He's going. His supporting cast since 2007. I mean, 2007 he made the finals.
2007 to the finals with Boobie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that
I mean, is this team better than that team?
You know, that's you would think they would be, but I'm not sure that they are at this point. Right? I mean,
they got more athletic.
Yeah.
They got younger. We know that.
Trey.
They got healthier.
J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, Kyle Carver, Jose Calderon. Tristan Thompson doesn't even play anymore.
Nope.
I got a whole theory on that, but it has nothing to do with basketball.
That's a whole separate issue.
Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr. I mean, and they signed Kendrick Perkins just in case they need an inside presence.
Yep.
I love Kendrick Perkins. He played for the Houston Hoops. I played basketball for the Houston Hoops. I know Kendrick Perkins. But when you sign Kendrick Perkins for the playoff,
that's a problem.
You're struggling.
Well, look, here's the deal. At some point in this series and in every series in which they go, if they find a way to get by the Pacers, which still is no guarantee, they're going to have guys like Corver or Calderon or somebody else show up. And Tim Legler said, hey, some of that supporting cast finally showed up in Game 4.
Well, they've got some guys on this roster that haven't been in this kind of situation. Down in a series, hostile environment, haven't had playoff experience with some of these guys. They haven't had a lot of time together. So who knows who's going to respond. LeBron got just enough help in this one. And they didn't shoot great from the three-point line, but they had some timely ones that carried a lot of weight. And LeBron James was fantastic all night, played a very physical game, getting into the post, taking advantage of his isolations, but played a very smart game as well, I thought, in incorporating his role players into the mix. But anytime he gets single coverage, he was able to get to the rim.
He was able to get to the rim, didn't hit an outside shot. I think it was 0 for 5 from deep. But the other thing that this game included is another instance of Lance Stevenson being Lance Stevenson down the stretch. Couple of scrums, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, let's tie up.
He's the guy in football that if he's your teammate, you love him. If he's on the team, you hate him. Right? That's exactly who he is.
I mean, he choke slammed.
Yeah.
Green.
Yep.
I mean, it was a choke slam, and I liked it. I like the way he plays. Look, there are not enough Charles Oakleys anymore.
Oh, Charles Oakley did that.
They don't let him. They don't let him do it anymore.
So this is my point. This is the closest we're going to get to old school NBA with Lance Stevenson.
Yeah.
Because what he does, not only being chippy, he actually plays hard. I mean, he makes some of the dumbest offensive decisions I've seen in a long time.
Fair.
But defensively, he is that pestering guy that old NBA used to look like. I like it. I like when he likes to try to beat up LeBron legally.
Yeah. Well, the question will become, can they do enough to get past if they can get past the Pacers, where does this team go? And I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question right now. But the other thing is, we're seeing with every other team in the East. I mean, the Celtics were up 2-0 on the Bucks. That's tied at 2-2. For all the talk about Toronto and the great season they've had, listen, what has been their MO in the playoffs? They've never showed up, and look what's happening again. They were up 2-0 against a Wizards team, which I believe last contributed something in the postseason in the 70s, to now that tied at 2. So as bad as it looks for the Cavs, it doesn't look like anybody else is really stepping up and sort of saying, hey, the East is ours yet. So there's still a little life. By the way, we have an update on Newsy Lalonde, thanks to our fine researcher, Brett Prada. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but you'll want to hear the Newsy Lalonde update, and you'll want to hear it from Brett, who, by the way, what I told was a little disappointed about someone who didn't show up at one of the weddings he went to this weekend. Brett, by the way, goes to more weddings than anybody I've ever met in my life. It's unbelievable.
Golic
and Wingo.
And Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. We're delighted to bring in ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Windy, thanks for being with us. First and foremost, let's start with the Cavs game against the Pacers. Where do we stand in this series now? It seems like game to game, it feels like a completely different series.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get your finger on the pulse of what's going on here. Typically, you have a pretty good idea of how a series is flowing. You have a typical idea of strategies and stuff like that. You see role players sometimes move in and out of relevance, but really, normally you have your hands around it by now. In this Cavs-Pacers series, it's been very difficult to get a feel at all. And, neither team is playing that well. There's been individual great moments, but it has not been a series where you're blown away by anything. It's really been a struggle. And, we probably shouldn't be surprised by that because these teams were separated by 2 games in the standings. This Cavs team, despite being a very veteran team when you go down the roster and looking at all the ages, some of the guys they're counting on have never done it before. And Kevin Love got hurt. He hurt his thumb, and he's playing through it. But if you watch the game last night, he's fumbling balls. He can't get, he can't get traction on certain things. And I just think, having the Cavs' second best player minimized a little bit even makes the series tighter. So this is an absolute slugfest, and because of the overlaying issues with LeBron in his future, and the Pacers trying to get back after LeBron's beaten them year after year after year, there's an even extra layer of spice on top of what's been a street fight.
Wendy, staying in that vein, who is the number two? Kevin Love dealing with an injury. Who's the number two guy off the dribble that could possibly come alive and carry the Cavs in case, very rare, but in case LeBron has an off night?
You have just hit on the exact issue that has happened to LeBron James. I think if you take a 30,000-foot view of this entire situation from the moment that he won the championship in 2016, the Warriors added Kevin Durant, making themselves a juggernaut. They already were damn good, but becoming a juggernaut. And then a year later, he lost Kyrie Irving when he asked for a trade and got traded. And so his team has significantly diminished, and the other teams have gotten better. And so you have LeBron in a position that he's not normally in. And we can break down in interesting little corners of moments and whatnot, but at the end of the day, you're looking at a Cavs team that's the 4 seed. And I know that LeBron will go on and on all year and say the seed doesn't matter, and there's some truth to that, I suppose. But this is the lowest seed he's been in 10 years. He hasn't been this low since 2008. So you're looking at a team that just, quite frankly, isn't as good as other teams he's been on, and we're seeing that slimmer margin for error take place in this series. They can't survive when an opposing player has a great game like Bojan Bogdanovic had on Friday night. They can't survive their own role players struggling. He just doesn't have the same firepower on his side, even though he's playing well and he's putting up giant numbers. He doesn't have the same team. And I mean, I know we've all known that for months now, but it's manifesting itself right in front of us.
Well, that leads us to the biggest question this offseason. Brian Windhorst with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN News this morning on Golic and Wingo. What is the future, regardless of what happens this season, whenever it ends, for this Cavs team, which has been remade, 4 times this season alone? What happens next for LeBron? What is the future going to be like this summer? Will he opt out, or do you think he wants to stay?
Trey, I honestly don't think he knows. And that's, frankly, a defeat for the Cavs, because this is a guy who has said on multiple occasions he wants to finish his career in Cleveland. And I do honestly believe that's what he wants to do. But you look at this team, it's the most expensive team in the league. It's not like they're going to have cap space anytime soon. And they've elected to invest in the future more than the present when they made the primary trade piece for Kyrie Irving a draft pick. Now, that may end up being, I guess, smart, but that draft pick didn't score any points last night, and he's not going to score any points on Wednesday. And so, LeBron is going to have to wait and see. And I think if you're a team out there that has had dreams of getting LeBron, the steal sign is there.
Wow.
But even those teams, there's still not a spot out there where LeBron looks and goes, that's where I would go. That's where I'm ready to accept the blowback from leaving Cleveland again. That's where I want to go trust the team with my third act of my career. There isn't, at least today. Now, that could change by the end of June or the first week of July, but there isn't a team out there that's feathered its nest where it's perfect for him. There's some contenders. We could talk about the contenders for 2 hours. But I think LeBron, if the season had ended this week, or if it does end this week, I think he's going to have to spend the next 2 months evaluating what's going to happen. And the Cavs will have to spend 2 months deciding whether or not they want to use that draft pick on a young player or whether they want to trade it because they're trying like hell to hold on to LeBron James.
Do you genuinely believe, Brian, that he would want to stay in the East or go to the West? I mean, I just don't see how he would want to be out in the West to have to go through a Houston or a Golden State. Would something like Philly be the perfect place for him?
Well, I don't think, honestly, right now he could sit there and say, oh, here's option A, option B, option C. There's just not a lot there where he knows, like, this would be great. So, like, you could say Philadelphia, but at the moment right now, Philadelphia doesn't have the cap space to add him. They could do some things to get there, but they don't. I mean, I know a lot of people have jumped to that conclusion, but they'd have to take some pieces off their roster to do it, and I don't know if that would change the arithmetic at all. To me, and this is what I've said, I honestly believe that LeBron's future is tied to what happens to Kawhi Leonard. What happens with Kawhi will affect what LeBron does. Doesn't necessarily mean that they'd end up playing together. But if Philadelphia, for example, focuses all of its efforts on trading for Kawhi Leonard, it may make it not so feasible for them to acquire LeBron. If the Lakers are able to get in there, get Kawhi Leonard in some sort of trade, then all of a sudden that maybe affects how LeBron looks at the Lakers. If Kawhi ends up staying put in San Antonio, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Spurs could get LeBron's attention. I don't think that's necessarily likely, but that changes it. That's why I say, like, to a certain extent, what happens with Kawhi will affect what happens with LeBron, because if LeBron's going to move, if LeBron's going to sever ties, it's not going to be for a hedging bet. It's not going to be, well, if I go to Philly, it's going to be for a badass team, okay? And so right now, I promise you, there are teams out there that have their whiteboards, even if they're in the playoffs right now, and they're constructing, how can we get this badass team together? That's how teams have gotten LeBron in the past. And if you honestly think that you can get him, you move heaven and earth. And we're also in a bit of a transition period in the NBA. We could see other major stars on the market. We don't know what's going to happen with the stars in Portland, for example, after they went out. Will one of those guys be available? We don't know what's going to happen with Paul George. I mean, there's a lot of fluidity that can happen that LeBron can massage. And if you're a Cavs fan, or if you're the Cavs organization, you want him playing basketball for the next 2 months. You don't want him sitting there with his phone plotting with people about how they're going to all of a sudden make a move. Because remember, the biggest deal that happened in the league last year was Chris Paul getting traded to Houston. That was a deal that was completely constructed by James Harden and Chris Paul, because they were sitting at home during the finals, hanging out and plotting the future. That's how the NBA works. And, of course, their teams were involved. Of course, the Rockets were telling James Harden how to do it. Well, that's what's going to go on if LeBron James has 2 months to figure it out.
Well, listen, by the way, Brian Windhorst with us, our NBA insider. If nothing else, you've given me my fantasy football name for next year's team, Brian Windhorst Badass Team. That's going to be the name of my fantasy football team. That is definitely going to work. But that's the offseason, and the NBA offseason is always fascinating, Wendy. But the thing that I like about this playoff run, remember last year it was 12-0 for the Golden State Warriors to get to the Western Conference Championship and the finals, 12-1 for LeBron and the Cavs to get there as well. It sure feels like this is going to be a much more interesting road to get to the finals than we've seen in the last 3 years.
For sure. The Warriors, quite frankly, they're just not playing great basketball, and it's not even just not having Steph. They're just not playing their top end, and that's one thing's interesting. We see the Raptors, who, they've reverted a little bit back to last year. Now, I still think they're going to be okay, but it's a toss-up series now. They're now in a 2-2 series playing against a team with 2 All-Stars. That's not very comfortable. We have no idea what's going to happen in that Bucks-Celtics series. That may be the hardest series to read after Pacers-Cavs. Really the only team that I've watched so far and said, boy, they've really, really super impressed me has been the Sixers. And, maybe this is the year. I remember, 4 years ago, the Warriors, catching fire at the right time, being great, and they broke through and announced their arrival on the stage in a year where it was in transition, where the Heat had faded, where the Spurs had faded. There was a window for a new team to step through, and the Warriors did that. Maybe that'll be the Sixers, but we still have a long way to go, and I don't feel like I know what's going to happen in most of these first-round series, and that's not something we've said in a long time.
Brian, let's talk about the only team really to get to the second round already, the Pelicans. Are they just this good, or was this just a matchup sort of thing for them to beat the Blazers?
Yeah, I went to the game 1 of that series, and I was convinced it was going to be a 6 or 7 game war, and I can't believe how well it went for the Pelicans. What I think we're seeing right now is what I call the Matrix moment. Which I know dates me a little bit, and says the Matrix is like 20 years old now. But
no, it's still awesome. Don't worry about it.
When the Keanu Reeves character figures out he's better than everybody, and it's just over. Like Anthony Davis is having his Matrix moment. It's happened in different years for different superstars. Like for example, I've been watching and waiting for Giannis to have it. Giannis hasn't had it yet. We've had two, very close games in that series. He had a tip-in yesterday. But Giannis, someday, I honestly believe, will realize he's better than everybody and just start winning games. This is Anthony Davis' 6th year. Until last week, he'd never had a playoff win. Now he is taking games and bending them. That's the best way I can put it. And I know it comes out of the Matrix, but like this is what Jordan used to do. Jordan used to take a situation and just bend it. And LeBron's done this for a decade plus, just bend the game. Well, Anthony Davis is doing that now. And Drew Holiday, his running mate, is also coming into his own, playing the best basketball of his life. And this trade that they made after Boogie Cousins got hurt for Niko Mirotic. Niko Mirotic, this guy that, who was a bit of a frustration player for the Bulls for the last couple of years. He makes quick decisions. He rebounds. He's like the perfect third guy. Now you're looking at these guys. You're like, oh my God, they've got confidence and they've got this killer guy. They've got this ace in the hole. This guy who can change a game. And so now they're sitting there, and the Warriors just lost 2 days to prepare for them by not being able to finish off San Antonio. So, we'll see what happens with Steph Curry and whether he's able to come back in that particular series. But, man, we're seeing Anthony Davis come into his own. It could be one of the most relevant things we see happen in this postseason.
Brian Windhorst with us, our NBA insider. And, Brian, it is fun. And what we've seen from the San Antonio Spurs, I thought was a culture win more than anything else. We're just not going to fold. You're going to have to beat us, which I thought was pretty cool. But one thing we talked about at the end of the regular season with you was the MVP vote. And it seemed like it was going to be James Harden's to win, and then LeBron, of course, plays all 82 games and puts up phenomenal numbers. And there was the one game in the postseason that I thought made the argument for LeBron James, and I understand it's a regular season award, but when you have a Houston team that can suffer through a game where James Harden goes 2 of 18 and still win by 20, and then you have LeBron who has to do everything for his team to win any game, it certainly built up perhaps the argument for those that were thinking, hey, maybe LeBron is the MVP of the league after all, every year he plays. Did you finally, I know you had to submit your vote. Are you comfortable sharing where you went on that vote?
Dish it, Brian.
Yeah. By the way, can you imagine what would happen to the Cavs if LeBron went 2 of 18 in a playoff game?
That's my point. I mean, they'd lose by 40.
They'd call it at the half.
Yeah.
I voted for James Harden, and it was a difficult vote. I think a lot of people just thought it was a layup. I analyzed it more and twisted and turned on it more. James Harden was so phenomenally great this year. He's done things offensively that have really changed the nature of the way certain plays are run. His isolation basketball and his step back and some of the things he's done are at the highest level ever done in the NBA. And believe it or not, there are different ways to evaluate defense. There is no magic bullet, but there are certain measures of defense, statistically at least, where he ranked ahead of LeBron this year. And even in this series, I don't think LeBron's play has distinguished himself on defense at times. They had a top 6, I think 5 or 6 defense in the league, and James Harden was a part of that. And so all of that went into it. And, this is the thing that fans can't understand because, you sit in this chair every single day and you know the culture better than anybody, Trey. But it's a very much of an absolute culture. If you vote for this guy must suck.
Right.
It's one or the other. That's not true at all. It's completely nuanced. And I recognize LeBron having a historic season, doing remarkable things. And I say, even with that, James Harden has elevated that highly. And so I gave James Harden my vote. I wish that LeBron had more than 4 MVPs because I don't feel great about it, but James Harden earned it. And also James Harden, the whole body of work for from October, the award is for October through April. And there was a couple of periods in there where LeBron just wasn't his best. Now, he's still winning Player of the Month in those awards, but compared to James Harden, it was hard. So I didn't love it, but I felt it was the right decision to put Harden number 1.
We're joined by Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA reporter. Brian, shouldn't they change the name of this award if LeBron is not going to win it every year?
Here's the thing. Like, we can have that debate, but the NBA loves this. The NBA wants there to be a debate because it wants the value to be put on the award. It wants people to fight for it. It wants it to be relevant, especially now that they have an award show. And instead of normally the MVP would be announced like right about now, maybe the end of this week, early next week. Now the award isn't until after the season. And so if the debate rages on, it's even better for the league. So like it's a twofold argument. One, should there be an award honoring somebody for having the best season, just kind of like in the NFL where you have a player who wins like best offensive player, and then an MVP, or should you somehow define the award a little differently about what the word valuable means? Yeah, there's probably the NBA is probably a little behind some of the other sports in the way it has its awards, but at the end of the day, the NBA is all about maximizing and leveraging, interest in fan support. And I think the debate as it rages on, even as the vote is now more than a week old, the fact that this is still being discussed on the biggest sports radio show in the morning in the country is a victory for the league, and that's exactly what they want.
Well, listen, it's certainly a hot topic, and we'll find out eventually who gets it. But it's a fascinating debate when you put into context what the word valuable actually means. It usually just means the best player on the best team that season. But if you put it in the context of what value they contribute to the team, it's a completely different dynamic. Windy, as always, we appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Have a good week, guys.
Golic.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
And Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
I love you, bro.
I love the fact that on the show with a guy whose name is Trey Wingo, you're worried if Mardy Fish was his real name.
You always think Fisher. Yeah. I thought y'all had shortened it on me, and I wanted to make sure I knew his whole name.
Mardy Fisher.
Mom's is the tennis fan in the family.
There you go. There you go. Your mom knows. Yeah. Moms always know.
Shout out to my mom, buddy.
Shout out. Oh, fine. Shout out to my mom. Okay?
Everybody do it.
Quick.
Everybody
Cook.
do it.
Cliff, Master Cook, shout out to your mom.
Shout out to Leah Augustin.
Bubble Boy, shout out to your mom.
Shout out to Eileen Kane.
Stanzik, shout it out.
We're all shouting out to Mom.
Jer Bear, shout it out in the back. Brett, go, shout out to your mom.
Hi, Mom.
There you go. Everybody's mom's taken care of. Allie, go.
Susie.
There you go. Everybody's mom's taken care of. Glad we got that straightened. There you go. Yes, buy them all flowers, but only from 1-800-Flowers.com. The sorbets, choice. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up in just about 30 minutes, Mel Kiper Jr. will join us to break down the draft.
Trey.
Come on. Mel is fired up. He is fired up. We had our pre-draft meeting in Baltimore because it's a home game for Mel. We all have to go to Mel. That's how you know who runs the show. We all have to go kiss the ring from all over the country and be with Mel. He got so wound up in the first 5 minutes of that draft meeting, I thought his head was going to explode. I mean, his face was the color of your shirt. He's talking so fast, the oxygen wasn't coming in.
You mean Vikings purple?
Yes, Vikings purple or LSU
or
purple.
LSU, either way.
Either way, it works
to each
for
his
me.
own.
So we'll be joined by Mel in a few minutes, and we're excited for that because the NFL draft is what everybody's talking about now. Is it's draft week, and let me give you the good stuff. And, of course, it's brought to you by Lowe's. Pros in the know start with Lowe's. Go to lowesforpros.com for details. Everybody's got their mock drafts out now.
Got Lowe's. All right, I'm sorry.
No, good. Roll with it, man.
No,
I'm good. Be you.
It was.
Is that how that song goes?
It came out.
All right, it's
it
all
just
good.
came out, Trey. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Brother, it is all good.
All right,
I ain't got no issues.
All right.
Let me be clear about that. So it is draft week. Again, Golic and Wingo will be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll be hosting the draft Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Always a lot of fun. And there's always one guy in every draft. There might be two this year, but there's at least one every year where you're going, okay, where is this guy going to go? And I think this year it might be two quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson out of Louisville, and obviously Baker Mayfield, because it seems like you're in one of two camps with Baker. You either love him or he rubs you the wrong way for a variety of reasons. And it's understandable, both sides. Baker Mayfield is going to go very high in this draft. The question is it going to work at the next level? Because, look, if he was 6'3" or 6'4", we wouldn't be having this discussion. Let's just be honest about it. But the fact that he's just over 6 feet is causing some people some concerns. And then you hear, well, there's the Drew Brees, he's just over 6 feet. Yes, he is, and he's done very well. Russell Wilson, just over 6 feet. He's done very well. Yes, he is. But is Baker either one of those guys? We're about to find out. Baker Mayfield was a guest this week on Marty Smith's America, which, by the way, is taking off the podcast. You can check it out. Download and subscribe on the ESPN app as well as Apple Podcasts. And here is something of that conversation that Marty Smith had with Baker Mayfield.
The maturity issues, that all these draft gurus, whatever you want to call them, they've never played football before, so it doesn't really matter when it comes down to it. But they say the issues would be maturity. They say they don't know if I can be a franchise guy. I've been the face at Oklahoma fortunately for 3 years at a place that, you talk about the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Clemsons, the Michigans, the USC. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that. So I've been preparing myself, even though I didn't know it, for this next step for a while now. And I'm ready to go have it all be about football.
And I can't wait for the rest of that Marty Smith podcast with Baker Mayfield. By the way, in my head, as I'm hearing Baker say maturity issues, I'm assuming he's air quoting it at the maturity issues. But let's be clear. There is a list of things that have come across Baker Mayfield's career at Oklahoma that make you pause. Now, I could care less about planting a flag at Ohio State. Yeah. It doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form. The fact that the Kansas players wouldn't shake hands with him, that's kind of on the Kansas players. Let's be honest about that. Now, the sideline gesture where he grabbed a certain area that you probably shouldn't grab, that's on Baker. But it was in response to the Kansas players trying to bow up, and then they got their butts kicked by Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield. The bigger issue, obviously, is being tased, being run away from police. That's a hard one to get around.
Pretty big.
That's kind of a hard one to get around, and he's going to have to answer to that. The thing that bothers me about that is the way he answered that question. Almost as if, give me a break with this stuff. Dude, you put it out there. Okay, you put it out there. You're going to have to answer for it. And I think more than anything else, the way he answered that question sort of made me go, all right, well, what's that about?
I'll let you go, Marty, because I'm finna go on a rant.
All right, here we go.
Well, I only got one thing to say about him is that you're not going to change him. Like I said, like his personality is what it is, and I've never been in an NFL locker room, obviously, but if he's going to come in and act cocky and not excel, that's an issue. If he's going to come in and act cocky and excel, then I don't think guys are going to have an issue with it.
Here's the problem.
Here we go.
And go.
All right.
And cue.
Here is the problem. At some point, Baker Mayfield's team said, make this seem like this wasn't you. All right? Because what he how he explained that, it's like we created those stories.
Correct.
Like we created this persona of Baker Mayfield without actually seeing and knowing the things that you've done. I had this discussion last year with a lot of guys. I was at Florida when all of the guys got suspended. All right. It comes to a point where it's choices, not mistakes.
Yeah.
It's decisions that you are making. And all we can do is believe what you're telling us. So Baker is cool. Throw it out there. Now there have been players come through the draft process that would have never even went any place close to saying what he just said. That's Baker Mayfield.
Right.
Though. And that is the problem that everybody has up until this point. His talent doesn't supersede what he says and does. And there's a difference, Trey. I know in America, people want to think that everybody should be treated fairly. Well, in sports, everybody's not. Your talent gives you a longer leash depending on how good you are.
The more you can do, the more they'll put up with.
Absolutely.
No
so when he says something like that, like you alluded to, it just reminds me of who we think Baker Mayfield is.
Yeah.
That to me validates it. Now, to your point, Marty, and I'm with you 100%. When you're a baller, you can get away with that. And dudes will believe in you in the locker room. The only thing that I would be careful of, and I'm not, I think Baker is a talent. Don't get me wrong.
There's no question about that.
It's no question that he's a talent. But the talent to the extent of how the conversation has been, the narrative of Baker Mayfield, I just don't know how that's going to be received.
Well, that's the thing. Look, and everybody swears, hey, his teammates love him, and they should, because that all works.
And
when it's 18, they win.
Yeah, they win a lot.
And it's 18 to 21-year-old kids. But, if you're your fifth year in the league as a defensive lineman and you're looking for make sure you secure that next contract and you got mouths to feed, that whole rah-rah stuff only works if the wins follow it up. Like Drew Brees is uber competitive and he gives those speeches. But you know why they all rally him? Because he puts it out there.
Yes.
I mean, he's got 5 of the 9 5,000 passing yard seasons in NFL history. Over half of them have Drew Brees' name on them. So listen, the rah-rah stuff works because that works.
That works.
The rah-rah stuff never works if the other part doesn't work.
From my experience, Trey, as when I was playing with the Dallas Cowboys, as a defensive guy, right, Tony Romo could say what he wanted to say because we felt confident that Tony Romo was going to deliver and give us a chance to win every game that we played in. That matters. We listen to that. They're in the league, the dynamic is so different. And I don't think, like, college players don't grasp it. I didn't grasp it before I got to the league. This is your livelihood now, right? Like, I have a wife with 3 kids and I'm playing in the NFL. And if I get a quarterback that comes in and we go 1-15, you know what usually happens? They look for everybody else to fire before they fire the quarterback.
Right.
So that mentality is what you have to carry over when you go pro. And with Baker, with his personality, his style, and how everybody has talked about, he should be a high draft pick because he can galvanize a locker room. Go to that locker room and lose and see how many dudes you galvanize.
Yeah.
On that level. Now in college, I can talk my way because we're a little bit, college players like to be hyped.
Right.
We like the rah-rah. When you get
It's
up there
business.
with those grown men though, are you producing? Because I like this paycheck that I'm getting.
Yeah.
And this paycheck helps my family, and it keeps us in the situation that we're in. Cause problems with that, and see how far that rah-rah gets you.
Look, the best speech I've ever seen was by Derek Carr when the Raiders 2 years ago had that back-to-back road swing on the road in Florida. He said, "Look, guys, I'm going to give you everything I have today. All I ask is that you give it back in return." That's all you really need. That's the speech. That's all the speech you need at the next level, and we'll see if it works out.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
We have a huge announcement, ladies and gentlemen.
Hear ye, oh yay, oh yay. Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Cambridge, was safely delivered of a son at 11:01 hours. The baby weighs 11 pounds, 7 ounces. The Duke of Cambridge was present for the birth. Her Royal Highness and her child are both doing well.
That's a Bitmaster Jer Bear. Jer Bear, yes. Jer Bear, well done. Oh yay, as we have a new royal baby, the Duke of Cambridge. Okay, so it's Brett, researcher Brett, who hasn't been on the show enough this morning. Brett, so look, I'm unclear as to the royal lineage succession plans now after the Queen. So take us through all what this means and this new baby. Where is he in the line of succession?
So the currently, we don't know the name of the baby, obviously.
Yes. The baby healthy. Boy, yes.
So Queen Elizabeth, she is getting up there.
92.
Next in line for the throne would be Charles, Prince of Wales.
Yes, we knew that.
Next in line after him would be his eldest son, Prince William.
Prince William.
Duke of Cambridge.
Yes.
Now, as he started having kids, he started pushing his brother back in line.
So Harry's going down farther down the food chain.
Harry's going
Harry
down, so it
Yes.
goes Prince George, which is William's first son.
Yes.
And then Princess Charlotte, his daughter, and now the currently unnamed child is number 5 in front of Harry, who's 6.
Marcus has a question.
Raise
What do you
my
got?
hand.
Yes.
What
This
do
is
they
school.
do?
Yeah.
They live a better life than us.
I mean, I know all the perks, and we talk about what is their actual job.
Well, I believe the title, Brett, is the Queen serves at the pleasure of the people. Is that not the way they describe it?
I believe so. They don't have any political anything going on.
Okay.
She's just the queen.
She
They're
serves
not
at the
lawmakers.
pleasure of the people?
Yes.
With that big guarded
Like
fence.
if you need coffee,
Okay.
like she'll
All right.
get you coffee.
By the way, we think you're 9th in line, and Marty, you're 10th now in
Okay.
succession for the.
I was going to say the baby
Windsor
boy is
crown.
ahead of you.
Yes.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
Jared Bear's the best. Well, I think Marcus wants to be the next town crier. I think so. All right. So as we continue this morning, Marty is a former number 1 tennis player in the United States. Played very well. 6 ATP wins, right? Or 7? Did I short you one?
6.
6. There you go. So you're known for long rallies in tennis, especially on clay. God, it can go forever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Not me specifically.
Not you specifically. But we've seen clay court rallies last, 23, 24, 25 strokes.
Easily,
it happens all the time.
Easily.
Well, we had something that might have set a record over the weekend. Brandon Belt of the San Francisco Giants fouled off a lot of pitches. I think it was
21.
It was a 21 pitch at bat. A 21 pitch at bat before he lined out. So congratulations to him in the length of time since the late 80s, right, Brett? Since the late 80s, since they've been tracking pitches, it's the longest at bat they can remember. But because Marty is well versed, and you got a minute to tell the story, in many circles, he has a Brandon, of all people, Mardy Fish has a Brandon Belt story. 1 minute, go.
Justin Verlander and I were headed to the car show in LA.
Justin Verlander, star.
And the reason why I say Justin's name is because he bought a car that they only had 50 of.
Yes, 50.
That
Mercedes with a Formula One engine. Right?
Yeah, pretty expensive car. And so the guy that sold it to him was going about how Justin, MJ, and LeBron were the only 3 athletes that
Justin Verlander, Michael Jordan, and LeBron. The only 3 that had this car.
20 minutes about this.
Yeah.
About how they were the only 3.
Yep.
And then we go over and get a drink, and Brandon Belt comes up and says, "Hey, I'm Brandon Belt. I play first base for the San Francisco Giants."
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. He's super nice.
What are you doing
nice
here,
guy.
they say?
What are you doing here? So I was lucky enough to be able to buy one of these cars.
So the salesman's whole pitch was, "Hey, Justin, only you, MJ, and LeBron," and then 21 pitch Brandon Belt shows up. "Hey, just bought the same car."
Justin was
the Big Mac. We have the Big Mick.
Yeah.
Justin was odded out.
He was a spot cross about it. Coming up, as we said, it's draft week, and we have Sir Lord of Mel from Baltimore.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
Every deck is made for standing on, but there's only one that's always had a way of standing out. So if you're looking to bring more style, comfort, and creativity to your life outdoors, call on the brand that's known for making the most in outdoor living. From decking, railing, and lighting to furniture, fencing, and framing, at Trex, we're engineering what's next in outdoor living. To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, call 1-800-289-TREX or visit Trex.com. That's TREX.com.
Nobody has trusted the process more over the years than the man who invented the process. Je m'appelle Mel. Mel Kiper Jr. joins us on Golic and Wingo. How are you, big boy?
I'm good. That's why it's Saturday night. We're worrying about undrafted free agents, right? So the draft extends to Sunday when we find out where all these guys that don't hear their name called end up landing, which is sometimes some pretty good stars, some starters in the NFL were found with those undrafted guys.
Tony Romo, Kurt Warner, just a couple of names to throw out at people
just
right
to name
now.
A few.
Just to name a few of the very many. All right, Mel, so put into your own words exactly what draft week means for you, because you've been doing this really. Every draft, you start about 2 years in advance in preparation. Yeah. So when the draft week is finally here, what does it mean to you?
Well, it means a lot in terms of, your preparation is pretty much over. You finalize your ratings, which I did yesterday, positional rankings and the top group and what have you. What I was working on this morning would probably shock everybody. I was doing a top 10 list for next year's draft and a top 5 quarterback list for next year's draft, which is going to be used when we're doing day 3, Trey.
Yep.
So this morning and last night I spent looking at guys for next year's draft already. McShay's got his first round mock for next year coming out the week after the draft. I got this coming out on day 3. So it's amazing how many things kind of tie together. When you think you're worrying about the draft choices coming up, we already know what we know about those guys. And now we're already worrying about guys for next year.
Yeah, the wheel never stops spinning, basically, is what Mel's saying. And it was at this time last year, Mel, we first started hearing you and Todd say, hey, Sam Darnold could be that guy that goes number 1 overall in the 2018 draft. You said this in 2017. So what do you think the likelihood is now that Cleveland pulls the trigger on Sam Darnold, or do you still think they're leaning toward Josh Allen?
I have no idea. And I say this with John Dorsey was on the back of my book way back in the early 80s when he was a linebacker coming out of Connecticut. I've known John for a long, long time. We've been to Oriole games together. He's a good friend of mine. He's not telling me. I'm not even going to ask him. He's not going to tell me. He's not going to tell anybody. And so I don't know. Darnold, Allen, I don't know what Cleveland's doing. We've heard Allen a couple weeks ago. Everybody had changed their mocks to Allen. People say, why are you staying with Allen? I haven't heard anything to take Allen out. Whoever you began with, Trey, if you began those mocks back in January with Darnold, you stayed with Darnold. You began those mocks as I did with Josh Allen, you stayed with Josh Allen because nothing's been said to affect your thinking.
Mel Kiper Jr. with us as we get set for the start of the draft. Again, Golic and Wingo will be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Come check us out. And, of course, Mel and I will be doing all 3 days of the draft, along with Louis Riddick, Kirk Herbstreit, Todd McShay, Adam Schefter, Chris Mortensen, and a cast of thousands. But we're trying to put in perspective, Mel, why this draft is so unique. Because there's the potential of 5 and even 6, potentially, quarterbacks going in the first round. That would be significant because in the common draft era, going back to 1967, we've only had 5 taken twice. 1995 there were 5, and 1983 obviously there were 6. 1999 there were 5, and 1983 there were 6. So that when we talk about 3 of the top 5 picks, maybe quarterbacks, 5 or 6 going in the first round, that makes this draft historically significant, right?
It does, and it's kind of created a scenario where some really good players at the top of the board will be there at 6, 7, 8, 9. Normally that's not going to happen, but you could certainly make an argument that some of the best players in this draft are going to drop just a bit. Some of those names would be, when you think about where Derwin James, the safety from Florida State, Minkah Fitzpatrick, the DB from Alabama, Denzel Ward, the cornerback Florida State, Roquan Smith, linebacker from Georgia, Quentin Nelson, guard Notre Dame. These guys are going to get pushed down just a bit. And I think it's interesting too, Trey, where you don't have offensive tackles. There's no offensive tackles in the top group. No wide receivers right now projected in the top group. Okay? So no pass rushers after Bradley Chubb projected until Marcus Davenport from Texas San Antonio goes in the middle of the first round. So it's one of those weird drafts with these quarterbacks being pushed up so high. And then after Saquon Barkley, when does the next running back go? Where does Darius Geis, LSU, Sony Michel, Georgia? Does one of those two get into the late first round? It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a center. You talk about that center position. James Daniels, Iowa. Frank Ragnow from Arkansas. Does one of those two, or maybe both of those centers, get pushed into the first round? It's going to be a really fun evening Thursday night, and obviously the fun will, I think, continue to rise and the entertainment value rise as we move forward to see which players are still on the board as we get into the second or third round of the draft. Maybe some of the guys that we expected to go in the first don't go on Thursday night and have to wait until Friday.
Mel, I've been waiting to get to you. I've been waiting
Marcus,
to get to you.
Now.
Let me ask you this, man. I think the dynamic in this draft is totally different because are you evaluating the quarterback for the potential that he has in his ceiling or the guy that's ready to come to your franchise and play right now? In my opinion,
you're looking. Yeah. What do you think, Marcus?
I think Josh Rosen is the more NFL ready right now.
Yeah.
I think Sam Darnold has the highest ceiling, possibly Allen. How do you evaluate that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think it matters. I think that to me is something that people talk about, but what's the reality of it? And I know that some think all these quarterbacks are going to play this year, even though they look like they won't, because they'll be better than the guys, some of those journeymen that are there. Somebody's going to get hurt. Maybe Bradford has had injury issues. Tannehill's had injury issues. But on paper, they will be able to sit. I think Rosen is more equipped because of the offense, obviously the high IQ, all that, to play right away, but you never know. And I think the best laid plans, nobody thought Carson Wentz was going to play right away. Nobody thought Russell Wilson was going to beat out Matt Flynn. You never know how that's going to go. I don't think you evaluate a quarterback based on that. I saw John Elway struggle mightily as a rookie. I saw Steve Walsh look better than Troy Aikman when they were both together in training camp one year. Long term, short term, even short term didn't matter, let alone long term. It doesn't. So I really concern myself with where they'll be in year 1. I want to know where they'll be in year 3 through 12. And I think if you can get to that point in the evaluation and figure that all out, you're a heck of a lot better than you would be just worrying about who's going to be better year 1 when most of these rookies are going to have their share of issues anyway.
Mel Kiper Jr. with us as draft week is here. And just to show you how good Mel is, let's go back in time to his 2005 grading of the draft. And this is what he gave the Dallas Cowboys, Mel. You gave them an A. One of the best hauls for any teams thanks to a significant upgrade on the defensive front seven. DeMarcus Ware is a terrific attack linebacker. Marcus Spears is a great fit in a 3-4 scheme. Marion Barber is bigger, and defensive tackle Jay Ratliff is versatile enough to play a 3-4 or a 4-3. So, Mel, you nailed it, and you nailed it with Marcus Spears. My tip of the cap to you, sir.
Yeah, Mel.
LSU players usually don't let us down, right, Marcus?
Hey.
Usually you get an LSU player, they usually come in ready to play in the National Football League.
They do. Now, our other co-host today is Mardy Fish, who is just the biggest Minnesota homer. Mel, all he cares about is what the Vikings do at 30. So, Marty, ask your question.
Vikings at 30, Mel. Well, I was going to say one thing real quick. Would it be crazy to think that Cleveland should take Saquon Barkley at number 1 and then take the best available quarterback at 4?
That would, I think, look good when you think about where Barkley is number 1 on most boards, Marty, but he's a running back, and there's some other pretty good ones in this draft. And I think, for John Dorsey, he was able to draft Kareem Hunt when he was the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs last year. We saw Alvin Kamara in round 3, where Hunt went, do really well. I just think if you evaluate all these quarterbacks and you say, this is the guy, you can't wait till 4 because you're going to lose them. The Jets gave up 3 starters to go from 6 to 3 to get the third best quarterback possibly. The Browns picked number 1. They passed in the past on Roethlisberger. They passed on Wentz. They passed on Watson. They passed on Carr. They passed on everybody. Now they can pick the one guy out of all these quarterbacks that everybody wants, these 4. They have a shot to get the one that they deem the best. You can't wait till 4 and then take a chance of losing that guy because you see that division. Flacco's not going to be around forever. Neither is Ben Roethlisberger and Andy Dalton. I've said about a month ago, they can own this division if they nail this draft, and that starts with the quarterback at number 1, and then worry about the running back. If Barkley slipped to 4, he won't, and then worry about the running back maybe in the second round when you can get a Sony Michel, Georgia, a Darius Geis, LSU, or a Ronald Jones from USC.
Yeah, okay, that's all great. Now who are the Vikings going to take at 30?
More important
we need some offensive line play.
Yeah, the purple people eaters. You need offensive line help, and I think that's going to be where you look at a Jaron Christian from Louisville as a kid who certainly has a lot of ability. Some think a corner could be in the mix if, say, a Mike Hughes from Central Florida dropped down that far. So certainly the offensive line's got to be fixed. That's why Case Keenum had those struggles against the Eagles. It was the offensive line and the defensive front of the Eagles getting after Keenum. That Minnesota Viking offensive line was their issue, and they got to solve that problem. And I think Jaron Christian, about high ceiling for left tackles in this draft. He has a very high ceiling.
Jaron, Mel Kiper Jr. with us, by the way. Jaron Christian, if he goes in the first round, he would have bragging rights over his brother. Gerald was Mr. Irrelevant in the 2015 draft. So can you imagine the family dynamic there? Hey, that's great. You got drafted last. I was in the first round. There will be bragging rights in that table for a long time for Jaron Christian out of Louisville. Mel Kiper Jr. reminding us. Guys, yes, sir.
Wingo's going to come up with, and I would say this to Marcus and Marty, he's going to come up with tidbits that I would have had no idea about. And that's something I didn't even remember that, had no clue about that. So you will educate and enlighten throughout the 3 days, Trey.
Mel, I'm here to give all the stupid stuff. You're giving the actual information. Let's be clear. And the First Draft podcast with Kiper and Todd McShay will get you ready for the upcoming NFL draft. Listen weekly on the ESPN app and the Apple Podcasts. So we talked about the quarterbacks, Mel, here. We could have 6. Looks like it's going to be 5. We know the Jets have already moved up. We know that Cleveland wants a quarterback. We know that Buffalo and Arizona want a quarterback. What do you think the odds are that Buffalo, who sits at 12, and Arizona, who sits at 15, may try and jump up ahead, and we could have major trades day 1 of the draft?
Well, I think you will. These quarterbacks, this jockeying for quarterbacks happened last year. It's going to happen this year. And I think Lamar Jackson's the pivotal one, or Baker Mayfield drops or Rosen drops into that 7 to 11 range. What does Miami do? Do they stay at 11? What does Buffalo do? You know Buffalo made that move to get the pick at 12 to have a chance to move up to get a quarterback. It's too expensive to go up to 2, and the Giants don't want to move all the way back to 12. We get that. But at 5, you have Denver. Maybe that's where they move up to get that quarterback, be it Mayfield or Rosen. We don't know what's going to happen at number 1. And then Lamar Jackson gets interesting because maybe sometimes you can just sit where you are. Maybe Buffalo at 12 can't make that deal, and they sit there and take Lamar. What does Arizona do? What does Pittsburgh, New England do late in the first round? Do they just wait it out? And Buffalo picks again at 22. So I think Lamar Jackson is going to be the whole storyline. And we're going to be, after the 4 are gone, Lamar Jackson is going to be the next quarterback off the board. And like I said, and then Mason Rudolph, does he get into day 2 when he could maybe be a late 1? That 32nd picks the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody seems to think the Eagles are trading out at 32. That could be a spot to jump in and maybe look at a Mason Rudolph. If you know you're not going to get him in the late 2nd, you get him at the end of the 1st. So could we have 6 quarterbacks in the first round? Maybe.
Mel, I got to ask the stupid question that may have me never invited back. But I got to ask you this, and I know the paradigm. I understand how important the quarterback position is. But what if I said this? What if I said take Saquon Barkley 1 and take Bradley Chubb 4 and buy yourself a year or 2 with Tyrod Taylor in Cleveland? How stupid would that sound?
That would be ridiculous, Marcus.
Don't hold back, Mel. Don't hold back, Mel. Let's go. Bring it.
I mean, there's nothing else to say. It's a quarterback league. This is a Browns team that's passed on everybody. So now they're going to pass on 4 of them? And Tyrod Taylor's okay. But, this is, again, where you could get the special entity. 2 of these 4. And you throw Lamar in at 5. Some of these quarterbacks are going to be special. Okay, when we had 3 go back in 2004, all were really good. There was no bust of that group with Eli, Ben, and Phillip Rivers. So you never know. People say 50% of these guys are going to be busts. We don't know that, and we know that a couple of these are going to be big time, or at least really good. It happens all the time. The two of these guys. So how is Cleveland guy who has that choice? And John Dorsey's a great football man. He's got to figure that out. And he will figure that out at number 1. So the quarterback's too important, Marcus, to worry about a running back that you can get at any point in the draft, and a defensive end, which is really good, opposite Myles Garrett, but they may be able to get Bradley Chubb at 4 and get the quarterback at 1. So go QB 1, Barkley goes 2 to the Giants, Darnold or Allen go 3, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there at 4 with Bradley Chubb. So I'd rather have my franchise quarterback at 1 and Bradley Chubb at 4 than Saquon Barkley at 1 and Chubb at 4, and then have just Tyrod Taylor, and I'm passing on another star quarterback, which is our history. Now, and when we took some, we weren't very good either, but this is a Browns history. They've had all kinds of blunders. The guys they take turn out to be busts, and the guys they don't take turn out to be stars. But I think that's changing with John Dorsey.
Well, as I said, by the way, you're still invited back after that question. Mel has a philosophy, just so you know. He will never take a running back. If you could find Emmitt Smith, Jim Brown, and Walter Payton rolled into one, Mel would still not take a running back in the first round. He just wouldn't do it. And it's backed up by last year, arguably the 2 best running backs in the rookie class were both third-round guys, Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara. Mel Kiper Jr. with us. Okay, if Baker Mayfield is the swing state in terms of quarterbacks, people have very strong feelings about him one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Is the Giants at number 2, are they the swing pick? Because, a lot of people say, hey, they got to get a replacement for Eli. Or Saquon's there. He's the best player in the draft. You got to take him. Or are they saying, hey, come get number 2 if you want a quarterback?
Yeah, I think this is a great spot, and it's a very challenging spot. It's like when Marcus came out. Everybody wanted Marcus. So where do you go? You got all these great schools who want you. Where do you go? It's tough to isolate just one and pass on 2 or 3 others. It's like you go in looking for the ice cream. What ice cream? You got all these great choices. Do you like a crab cake? You like shrimp? You like steak? You got all these different choices, and they're all really good. And I think it's going to really indicate where they think this organization is with Eli Manning. And because you can get Darnold or Allen. You're sitting there. You got one of those 2 quarterbacks. And how much longer is Eli playing at a high level? Or you can take Saquon Barkley to help Eli. Or trading out really isn't an option because you're losing those elite guys if you move down to 12. Then you say Bradley Chubb, a defensive end over the quarterback, over a running back. I would, but they would. I would never take him over the quarterback. So all these different options that are all really good. Which one do they feel is the best option? So sometimes, you figure, hey, I'd rather just have one guy I love and I know if he's there, I'm taking him. Now you got 3 or 4 different ways to go. I think it's going to be really interesting. Dave Gettleman said, I want a Hall of Famer. Now, Hey, quarterbacks can become Hall of Famers. This notion you can't take a quarterback because he's not going to be a Hall of Famer, you're going to miss on a lot of guys. 20 of the 32 starting quarterbacks, by the way, in the NFL went in the first round. 4 went in the second. That's 24-32 in the first 2 rounds. If you want a quarterback from the third round on, you're catching lightning in a bottle. And good luck on that. Good luck finding the next Russell Wilson or Tom Brady. That doesn't work. Tony Romo when he was an undrafted free agent. Good luck on that one.
All right, listen, Mel, you just said, as Mel Kiper Jr. joins us, you just said you finished up your final evaluation. So when all is said and done, based not on who's going to go number 1, but based on all the input and the data you've looked at, the best player available in the 2018 NFL Draft is?
Running back Saquon Barkley.
Even though you'd never take him number 1 overall.
Hey, I said this. Remember that caveat? I said if I'm the GM and I got a head coach and a coordinator and the rating is right where it needs to be, and I said this about Zeke Elliott, I said it about Gurley and Fournette, said it about Trent Richardson, he was a bust. But if that rating is in line and you need him as a missing link and the coordinator and the coach said, I got to have him, we can't not take this running back, and the grade indicates he should go at that spot, I just say, okay, you win that battle. But more times than not, it's not worth taking a running back in the first round of the draft. History proves that.
Well, look, you're right. I mean, it's an interesting thing, but I love the fact that you're conflicted about this because you would never do it, but the data tells you that Saquon Barkley is the best player in the draft.
I would blame it on them. Yeah. I would blame it on them, Trey, and have my win-win, because I'll find what I would do then is I would take another running back down the line. And just as a little insurance policy, or just to prove my point, if I were GM, I'll let them have their running back there. I'll get a running back 4th or 5th round, 3rd round, and I know can be maybe as good, close enough to make it very interesting.
Okay, so before let's go real quickly, give me that running back that you think could be an Alvin Kamara, that could be a Kareem Hunt in this year. Who's a 3rd or 4th round back that may surprise people?
Well, I think in the 3rd round, you could see Nick Chubb from Georgia. If you do,
he could fall that far.
Who is a powerful late 2nd, early 3rd, he could. And remember, Kareem Hunt had a great Senior Bowl, yet he dropped to the 3rd round. Alvin Kamara was a dynamic player. Tested out, he had almost 11 broad jump. He had a 40 vertical. He was a tremendous athlete with versatility. He went in the 3rd round. So, these guys, Todd McShay thought Kamara would go in the late 1st round. So we're going to find Rashad Penny, versatile kid at San Diego State. He could be there in the 3rd round. Nyheim Hines, who does everything at NC State.
Flyer.
Kind of like a Deion Harris, Darren Sproles. He could be in the 3rd, 4th round. So we can talk about running backs. We will find on day 2, day 3, some really good running backs coming off the board.
Mel, you're the best, brother. I'll see you Wednesday at the draft meeting, okay?
Can't wait, guys. Take care, man.
Thanks, Mel. Commander Mel, signing off.
See you, Mark.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.
I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15%.